So now what we're going to do is talk about template inheritance. And to best understand this, it will make it easier for us to have multiple views. So I'm going to go into views.py inside, of course, my restaurants app. And I'm going to go ahead and copy home a few more times. So we'll come in here and now we have home 1, 2, and 3. Oops, and there we go. And then we're going to go into our URLs and we're going to import those other ones. So home 2, home 3. And now we're going to make some new URLs. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the one that we've created, and I'll just say home 2 and then home 3 and change the views in here. Now, these aren't practical necessarily, but they are what we'll be using. Make sure you have that comma gone. Okay, so we save this and we save our views. Now, if we go into our page and we go to home 2, it shows us a different one. We go to home 3, it shows us a different one, right? So it's 3 HTML templates that are being rendered. Now what I could do for each one is make a new template. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll just say home2.html and then home3.html, and we'll keep the other one base. So back into our views, home 2 is now home 2. And then home 3 is home 3. And then in home 2 and 3, we'll just go ahead and copy base, bring it in, save it, and bring it in, save it again. And this time we'll just say home 2, hello world, or rather just home 2. I'm going to get rid of a lot of the text that's in here. Save that. Home 3, same deal. Get rid of the text and just put home 3. Back in my view, I will get rid of a lot of the context. We don't need it because this is about template inheritance. So let's go ahead and get rid of the context. And now we've got home 1 has context, 2 and 3 do not. So if I refresh in home 3, I see that it says home 3, 2, and 1. Oops, actually 1 is just 1. Okay. So we've now have a couple things that we just learned. Number 1, creating new pages is super easy, right? We just add that trailing slash and then we add a slug or basically a page that's ready to be easily used. That is, it doesn't have any spaces in it. That is not a valid URL. If you want to have separators, just use a dash, not an underscore. You could use a period. I wouldn't recommend it. I would use a dash and all lower cases. Okay, so we figured that part out. And we showed you how easy it is to have new views for them, right? And we also showed you how to change some templates in there. Cool. Very easy and very achievable, if you ask me. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, we already figured out how to do one. Now we've done more advanced ones. But here's where things fall apart. If we look at base.html, home2.html, and home3.html, we actually end up repeating ourselves a lot. And if we start using any CSS or anything inside of this page, it will really fall apart on our brand stuff. So let's actually give an example of that. I'll just say another H1 and I'll say mooeypicky.com. Okay, so I save that and I refresh. mooeypicky.com's on that page. But if I go to home 2, it's not on that page. So I actually want it on both of those pages. So a way to do it would be to copy this and paste it on this page. And then we can repeat that process for every page going forward. But if you want to know something that's really cool about the philosophy behind code and software, it's called DRY. That is, do not repeat yourself, or don't repeat yourself, as a contraction to make it that nice dry acronym. Okay, so that means that we don't want to repeat ourselves, or we want to limit the amount of we repeat ourselves as much as possible. In base.html, home2.html, and home3.html, we actually repeat ourselves a lot because we have, first of all, the brand, but also all of this stuff. So if we had any CSS or any other sorts of things that are related to the metadata, we would have some issues. And that's where template inheritance really shines, and that's where it comes in. So instead, what we're going to do is I'm going to keep this doc type HTML, and I'm going to make a new template in here called home.html. And what I'm going to do inside of home is I'm really just going to have all of the content that's literally just related to home.html. So I just put it in here. I'm going to save it, go back into my views, and go to home and change base.html to home.html. So it's back to that, right? So we now have it exactly where we want it to be. So we save that. I refresh on my home page, and it's actually still working. If I view the page source, I will see that it is rendering out the HTML. Now, this is not properly validated HTML, but since Chrome is an advanced web browser, it knows that this is HTML, so it will render it correctly. It doesn't actually need, and what I'm saying is it doesn't need the doc type HTML stuff to actually render HTML. But this is invalid HTML itself. So how do we fix that? Well, let's go back into base.html, and we're going to use a template tag called block content. And then we'll do in block content. And what we want to do is put all of our content inside of this area. Whatever this area is, we want to put it in there. And to make it even more clear, we'll just put a div class called content, or rather div class container. So this is the main container that's going to hold all of our content. So since I've got this, I can now jump into home.html and use another tag called extends and base.html. So extends another template. And then we are going to go ahead and do block content around our content, and then in block content. We save that, we refresh on our homepage, and now it has mooeypicky.com there. If I look back in our source, I refresh, notice that all of that other stuff is coming through. So basically what I did was, or what Django did was, it took in only this stuff. It got rid of all of the template tags and replaced them in here. So let's actually look at it with what I mean. So if I say, hello there, exclamation mark, and I'll call this block content 2, we save that. I refresh here. Now it got rid of everything in there. It says hello there, that's all it says. But let's go ahead and copy this again and then put block content below it. And notice there's still stuff inside of block content. I refresh in there, it goes away, but the content actually comes in. So it's taking this block out. So it's like I'm cutting this block out and then pasting it with this block. Okay. So this is you're gonna have to actually play around with this to see it work. Now, what if you did have some content in here that you wanted to include inside of your content? I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this. Well, what if you wanted to include that hello there inside of home.html? It's really simple. You just do 2 curly brackets, block.super. We save that, a refresh, and it'll actually have hello there in it. We save the base.html. It's only there once. Now I can move it anywhere, and I can put it in another area, and so on, right? So I can still use the content that's in there, but this is called template inheritance. This allows me to actually change the layout or the content that's actually inside of any given template. And then using the extends call allows me to go there, right? So in home2.html, I can do the exact same thing. So the main content that I wanted was just this home2. So I'll just say extends base.html and then block content and then in block. Now you don't actually have to write content, but you can. We put that home2, so we save that, and then we go to home2, and now there it is. Movie Picky is still there, and we can actually look at home2's source as well, and it's showing the same stuff. Notice it still has container in there. Okay, so now that means I can make some navigation. So let's just do that. I'm just going to do some basic navigation. We'll just do ahref to the home page, and we'll just say home, and then ahref to the home2 page, and we'll say 2. So there is some URLs there now. I save that and refresh. Notice it says home and 2. So if I click on home, it takes me to home. Click on 2, it takes me to 2. There we go. So we've got a very functional page now, and it's actually working because It's replacing this little block here with the templates that we have decided. So let's actually name these things as they would. I'm actually going to get rid of home3 and change it to being called contact.html. I'm going to get rid of home2 and call it about.html. And I'll just call this, put in home2. I'll just change this to being about. And I'll copy this and go into contact and change it into being contact. All right, so far so good. And now since we've changed our templates, let's go into our views and change them. We'll call this about, change the context to being about, and content or contact, and contact, there we go. Finally, our URLs, we need to change those as well. So we'll say about and contact. So changing these, about, contact, and about. Save it, refresh in here, and let's change our URLs on that base.html. So this will be about, call it about, and then finally the last one being contact and contact. We save that, refresh in here, and now if I click on these links, it actually takes me through. And the URL's changed, so if I copied this and pasted it or open a new tab and pasted it, it's going to go where it needs to go. So going back to this, we've figured out how to handle the URLs, we've returned the responses, and we're returning better responses now. We're not really remembering things yet, but we're turning better responses. When I say remembering things, of course, I mean related to the user or something that's stored in the database. We haven't stored anything in the database yet. Okay, so that's it for template inheritance. If you have questions on this, let us know. We will cover more of these things, but if you're confused about this at all, you might want to rewatch it or at least play around with how these blocks work. Now, you have to use block to make it actually be changeable. So I'll do one more example of that, and we're going to put a title tag in here, and I'll just say, this is going to call it mooeypicky.com. We save that. We refresh up here. We see that it says Mooey Picky. If I go to any of the pages, it'll stay as Mooey Picky. So what I want to do then is say block title or block head underscore title. And then whatever we open, we must close. So in block head underscore title. Okay, so I can actually copy just that block. I don't need the title tags, just this block here. And I can go into home.html and I'll say welcome, two pipes, and then block.super. And keep those curly brackets closed. Again, what opens must be closed. We refresh and there we go. We've got welcome. And I can go ahead and copy this again on contact and call it contact, and copy that again and go on here and say about. Now you might be like, hey, you're repeating yourself. You're adding this on every page. Well, not necessarily, right? Actually on home, I'm going to leave welcome off and just have it as the default, which is mooeypicky.com. Refresh. There we go. It's there. Go to about. Click on about. It shows us about. Contact. Contact's not showing up, so let's make sure we save it. Refresh. There we go. Cool. So it's dry and it shows us the concept even more on a whole nother level. All right, so that's template inheritance. Again, if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, let's keep going.